Welcome, have a nice day. Today is Sunday, 13th of April 2025. Starting the newspaper with the world news. After a week, he is alive and secure. Trump administration on man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. United States Iran negotiators hold constructive nuclear talks in first round to meet again on April 19 in Oman. Brother of Manchester arena bomber warned 3% officers. Ukraine alleges Russia missile attack on Indian farmers' warehouse. None of the parties are looking for fruitless talks. Iran, United States agree to meet over Tehran's nuclear program. In the first softening on China, United States exempts phones, laptops, chip machines from tariffs. Now, from the Hindu newspaper, we have Iran's nuclear program and atomic tug of war. Following the breakdown of the JCPOA, Iran has already accelerated its nuclear program, with the country enriching uranium to 60% in its plants. The United States and Iran have started talks about the latest controversial nuclear program after Donald Trump, in his first term, unilaterally withdrew the United States from the 2015 nuclear deal, officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA). Iran had maintained that it would not hold direct talks with the United States. There were multiple rounds of indirect talks in Vienna after Joe Biden became the president in 2021. But those efforts were inconclusive. Iran in this period substantially accelerated its nuclear program. In recent months, Iran came under increasing pressure. Its so-called axis of resistance has been humbled by Israel. It lost an ally in Syria, and its economy is in serious trouble. As the heat on Iran rose, Mr. Trump offered dialogue. "We can't let Iran have a nuclear bomb," he has said last week in a joint press conference at the White House with the visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Faced with the threat of war in the moment of weakness, Iran has agreed to engage the Americans diplomatically. Ministry of Home Affairs likely to file a review petition against Supreme Court verdict on governor-president role in the ascending to state laws. The MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, is a nodal ministry for processing and conveying final decision through a president of India with respect of state legislation. Petition challenging Supreme Court verdict being readied. Officials claim the judgment paves the way to restore a lapsed bill. Court's 3-month timeline for president-governor assent must be reconsidered, officials say. The Union Home Ministry of Home Affairs is likely to file a review petition against the Supreme Court's April 8 judgment, allowing judicial intervention if governors withhold assent to legislative bills for too long. It also prescribed a 3-month timeline for the president to decide on bills referred to by the government. A senior government official told The Hindu that a petition was being readied against the judgment, which lays down definite timelines for the governors and the president. Israel says a new security corridor completed serving Gaza's southernmost city. Palestinians make their way with the belongings as they flee areas in the eastern part of the Gaza City after the Israeli army issued evacuation orders in Gaza City April 11, 2025. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced on April 12 that the military plans to expand its ongoing offensive across much of the Gaza Strip, warning residents to evacuate from the active combat zones. Israel announced on Saturday, April 12, 2025, to complete the construction of the new Morag corridor, essentially separating the southern city of the Rafah from the rest of the Gaza Strip, further squeezing Palestinians into shrinking wages of land as airstrikes continued across the enclave. The forces have completed the encirclement of the Rafah, statement by the Israeli military said. Argentina receives $42 billion from the international financial institutions. Three international financial institutions announced $42 billion in a fresh support for the financially troubled Argentina. Finance Minister Luis Caputo had earlier said that within 60 days, Buenos Aires expects to receive $19 billion from the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and other sources, including the IDB. Three international financial institutions announced $42 billion in the fresh support for the financially troubled Argentina on Friday, April 2025. As its president said, his country's economy will grow like never before. The IMF International Monetary Fund approved a new 4-year $20 billion bailout for the South American nation, as the World Bank said it will pump $12 billion into the economy, and the Inter-American Development IAD Bank IDB announced plans for a $10 billion deal. Some of the cash is expected to flow as soon as next week to help sicken Argentina defend its wobbling peso currency in a political boon for the libertarian president Javier Milei's aggression efforts to receive the nation's fortunes. Now going towards the Hindustan Times newspaper states that 3 killed, 18 cops injured in Murshidabad. Violence over Waqf Act 118 held so far. Following a Calcutta High Court's order on Saturday, central forces is deployed in the riot hit areas. Kolkata, Behrampur. 3 people allegedly killed and 18 policemen injured in the violence that broke out in the West Bengal's Murshidabad district on Friday over the Waqf Amendment Act. People aware of the development said at least 118 persons have been arrested since Friday in connection with the riots. Following a Calcutta High Court's order on Saturday, central forces are deployed in the riot-hit areas. A division bench of the High Court also directed the central forces at the state police to file separate reports on April 17. Police said violence had erupted earlier this week in the Murshidabad's Jagnipur area, and rumor mongering over the past few days has triggered fresh clashes since Friday. We had reports of 2 deaths in Samsarganj, said Jawad Shamim, Additional Director General, Law and Order, West Bengal Police said. Tremors jolt Srinagar, other parts of Jammu and Kashmir as 5.3 magnitude earthquake hits Pakistan. People in Srinagar, Jammu and several other parts of Kashmir region felt tremors. Pakistan was hit by an earthquake of a magnitude 5.3 on Saturday at around 1 p.m. on Saturday, said the National Center for Seismology. The depth of the earthquake was 10 km and tremors were felt in the parts of Kashmir. People in Srinagar, Jammu and several other parts of the Kashmir region felt the tremors. However, no casualties or damage to property has been reported in the valley, PTI reporting citing an unnamed official. According to the NCS, the exact location of the earthquake is at latitude of 33 degrees 70 minutes north and longitude 72 degrees 43 minutes east. Horrifying videos of the tremors hitting the parts of the Pakistan have emerged on social media. A video shows a man inside a grocery store with a child when suddenly the camera and the shop start shaking. The man rushes out of the shop with the child. 3 Muslims killed in an ongoing encounter in the Chhattisgarh Bijapur place. The exchange of the fire began around 9 a.m. on Saturday, and intermittent firing has continued since then, according to a statement issued by police. Raipur, at least 3 Muslims were shot dead on Saturday in an ongoing encounter with the security forces in the Intravati Tiger Reserve area of the Chhattisgarh Bijapur district. Police said the encounter took place during the joint anti-Mozist operation based on the intelligence inputs about Mozist presence in the forested area, an officer said. Now going towards the economy of the country from the business point of view, Reserve Bank of India (RBI) repo rate cut impacts, says State Bank of India. Bank of the India cut FD rates on select tenors. This reduction in FD rates will impact the depositors, especially senior citizens who are dependent on interest earned from fixed deposits spark with the blanks. Days after the Reserve Bank of India slashed the repo rate by 25 basis points, BPS banks, including the State Bank of India (SBI), have announced deposit rate cuts on select maturities. Earlier this week, the Reserve Bank of India Monetary Policy Committee (MPC) reduced the repo rate by 25 basis points (BPS) to 6% for the second consecutive policy review. From nuclear energy to EVs, India needs to keep all technology options open, says Principal Scientific Advisor Ajay Kumar Sood. Here's why. SMRs, he told the Indian Express, have a distinct advantage if one needs a very focused energy supply, like for data centers, and SMR office offers a possible application even if it costs of generation. It's not economical. Principal Scientific Advisor Ajay Kumar Sood. The recent regulatory clearance by the United States Department of Energy for United States company Holtec International for to transfer technology for fabricating small modular reactors (SMRs) is a significant development that expands the range of options India has in its progress towards clean energy, said the principal scientific advisor Ajay Kumar Sood. Nuclear energy is inevitable because if you look at the energy mix which is required for net zero carbon by 2070, nuclear energy is integral to this energy transition period. You can't get away from that, given that whatever is required, whether it is a SMR or whether it is a 500 megawatt electric control conventional reactors or any other reactor type, all have to be used now, said Sood. From the banking and finance point of view, one-third of the digital payments in India are driven by credit cards and EMIs, says a survey. Nearly one-third of the domestic digital payment transactions in 2024 were credit-driven, facilitated through their credit cards or interest-bearing EMIs, equated monthly installments. According to a report that analyzed transactions data from over 20,000 merchants, these findings come aimed at tightening regulatory measures aimed at curbing rising consumer credit and growing household debt, which is increasingly fueling. Consumers today are more open to financing their spending rather than making one-time payments. Nearly one-third of all domestic digital payment transactions in 2024 were credit-driven, facilitated through the credit cards or interest-bearing EMIs, equated monthly installments, according to a report that analyzed transaction data from over 20,000 merchants. These findings came aimed at tightening regulatory measures aimed at curbing rising consumer credit and growing household debt, which is increasingly fueling consumption rather than asset creation. Now, going to the science and tech, we have how will genetic mapping of Indians help. The story so far, the preliminary findings of the Genome India project, which attempted to study whole genomes of 10,000 healthy and unrelated Indians from 83 population groups, were published in the journal Nature Genetics on April 8. After excluding two populations, the published findings are based on the genetic information of 9,772 individuals, 4,696 male participants, and 5,076 female participants. When was it launched? It is actually the 10,000 human genome study was launched in January month of 2020 with the funding from the Department of Biotechnology. Blood samples and associated phenotype data such as weight, height, hip circumference, weight circumstance, and blood pressure were collected from 20,000 individuals representing 83 population groups, 30 tribal and 53 non-tribal populations spread across India. Of 20,000 individuals, DNA samples from the 10,074 individuals were subjected to whole genome sequencing, but later two populations were excluded. New working group on malnutrition induced diabetes from at recent World Diabetes Congress. It has been tasked with the defining diagnostic criteria and management guidelines, establishing a global registry to facilitate research collaboration, and developing education modules to train healthcare professionals worldwide. At the International Diabetes Federation (IDF) World Diabetes Congress held in Bangkok last week, an approach making a decision was taken nearly 75 years after a particular type of diabetes was the first recorded. Peter Schwartz, president of the IDF, announced the inauguration of the Type 5 diabetes working group, turning attention to malnutrition-induced diabetes. While type 2 diabetes, where the global numbers are largest, can arise out of an unregulated intake of the food and consequently excess weight. Type 5 diabetes is at a polar end of the weight and nutrition spectrum, understood to be associated with the undernutrition and even low weight. It was first reported in Jamaica in 1955 and then defined as J-type diabetes, and the World Health Organization classified it in 1985 as a malnutrition-related diabetes mellitus, only to remove that in 1999, citing a lack of evidence of causal association with malnutrition. Study finds a shift in a peak time of maximum rainfall. The peak of maximum rainfall in the Indo-Gangetic Plain has advanced by 4 hours during 2011-2020. The peak time of maximum rainfall has delayed by 1 or 2 hours in the West Central region, India. A study which examined the spatial rainfall trends across India has found that the amount of rainfall per day in certain parts of India has increased during the last decade, 2011-2020, compared with the previous decade of 2001 and 2010. While certain other parts has witnessed a reduction in the rainfall amount, the study has used the GS map ISRO data to arrive at this conclusion. The study has also found that the timing of a peak rainfall has also shifted in different ways across certain Indian regions during the last decade, 2011-2020, compared with the earlier decade of 2001 and 2010. The study, which was published in the Geophysical Research Letter on March 17, 2025, used the GS-map ISRO data. GS-map stands for Global Satellite Mapping of Precipitation. The GS-map ISRO is a precipitation protective specifically for Indian subcontinent, which was developed through an agreement between ISRO and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency (JAXA). Precipitation data from GS-map ISRO are available from March 2000 onwards and are available at a very fine resolution of 0.1 by 0.1 degree latitude longitude grid with a temporal resolution of 1 hour. White House aims to eliminate the NOAA climate research in budget plan. The NOAA logo is seen behind the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as he talks the media during a news conference as a Hurricane Dorian approaches the United States August 29, 2019. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The moves are part of the plan to downsize NOAA dramatically, slashing agency funding by around $1.67 billion or 27%. The administration of President Donald Trump aims to eliminate the arm of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration that oversees research on climate change and refocus on the United States Fisheries Service to support Energy Department, according to the draft White House budget document says. The moves are part of a plan to downsize the NOAA dramatically, slashes agency funding by around $1.67 billion or 27%, according to the proposal. The Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, known also as NOAA Research, would be closed under the proposal, along with the $480 million in a funding for regional climate data and information, agency research laboratories, and cooperative institutes among the programs. NOAA, a division of the Department of Commerce, is a scientific agency that oversees the weather and climate, forests monitors ocean and atmospheric conditions, and manages the nation's commercial fisheries. Ecological disruptions are a risk to national security. Illegal deforestation is one of the terrorist groups funding their activities. National security depends on the ability of the nation to maintain productive ecosystem, resilient biological communities, and sustainable access to natural resources. When the natural environment is stretched beyond its ability to meet the basic human needs for food, clean air, drinkable water, and shelter, it is not just a humanitarian concern for the world community. Research shows that these crises are a matter of the national security for the United States and other countries. The Pentagon and the United States intelligence community have long paid close attention to the influence of the climate change. Prior intelligence reports have shown how climate change can generate flashpoints of a global conflict, affect how troops and equipment work, and influence which defense locations are vulnerable. The effects of ecological disruptions on the national security gets less attention, but they too can cause social and political instability. Economic strife and a strain on international relations, ecological disruptions occur when ecosystems that provide natural resources are compromised and can no longer meet basic human needs. Examples include overfishing, human disease, and environmental crime. Telangana's grain warrior Vanajivi Ramesh dies of heart attack. Daripali Ramesh, Padmashri Awadi Daripali Ramesh leaves behind an inspiring legacy of Green Crusade. Veteran Green Warrior and Padmashri Awadi Daripali Ramesh, fondly known as Vanajivi Rameya, died of a heart attack in a Khammam early on Saturday, April 12, 2025 morning. He was 85. Known for his relentless effort to plant and nurture saplings in the mission mode, Mr. Rameya, a native of Redipali village in Khammam, rural Mandal, leaves behind an inspiring legacy of a green crusade for environment protection. He is famous for science for the significant contribution in increasing tree cover by planting countless number of saplings, mainly of fruit-bearing species of trees and biodiesel plants in Khammam rural Mandal during his lifetime. His unique social forestry initiatives won him the country's highest civilian honor, the Padma Shri, in 2017. Condolence messages poured in from all quarters, including green enthusiasts and environmental activists, on the death of the veteran Green Crusader. From Tech, we have a Meta to add Dina Powell, McCormick, Patrick collusion to board. Meta will add a former Republican official Dina Powell, a McCormick, and FinTech former Stripe CEO Patrick Collision to its board. The board additions come after the Meta announced the big policy changes earlier this week, including scrapping its United States fact-checking program, elevating a Republican Joel Kaplan as the company's new chief global affairs officer, and ending its diversity programs. Meta platforms will add a former Republican official Dana Powell, McCormick, and a fintech firm Stripe CEO Patrick Collision into its board effective April 15, the social media company said on Friday. The Facebook parent said in a regulatory filing that it is increasing the size of its board to 15 members. Powell McCormick, who spent 16 years in the senior leadership roles at Goldman Sachs, has previously served as Deputy National Security Advisor to the United States President Donald Trump in his first term. Tesla stops taking new orders in the China for two imported United States made models. Tesla has suspended taking new orders for Model S and Model X vehicles on its Chinese website. Higher the United States tariff significantly increases the retail cost of Chinese consumers, making these cars more expensive than locally produced EVs. Tesla has suspended taking new orders for Model S and Model X vehicles on its Chinese website. Reuters checking showed on Friday as the world's two largest economies exchange blows in a trade war. Both the models are made in the United States and imported to China. New orders of other two models were also no longer available on the automaker's WeChat mini program account in China. Tesla did not immediately respond to requests for comment, while the companies did not give a reason for the move. It comes as China and United States have been locked into an escalating trade war. China on Friday raised its tariffs on United States imports to 125% on Friday after President Donald Trump's decision to hike duties on Chinese goods to 145%. Alphabet Nvidia invest on Open Artificial Intelligence co-founder Sutskever SSI. Alphabet and Nvidia have backed Safe Super Intelligence SSI, a startup co-founded by OpenAI's former chief scientist Leah Sutskever. The dividend moves by Alphabet's corporate and cloud division with a high-profile AI labs, including SSI and Anthropic, show the tech giants evolving AI artificial intelligence hardware strategy. Alphabet and Nvidia have joined prominent venture capital investors to back Safe Super Intelligence SSI, a startup co-founded by OpenAI's former chief scientist Lelia Sutskever that has quickly risen to become one of the most valuable artificial intelligence startups. Months after its launch, as source familiar with the matter said, the funding illustrates renewed interest from the big tech and infrastructure providers in making strategic investments in the startups developing cutting-edge AI that requires massive amounts of the computing power. Alphabet, which was its own AI models, earlier in the week announced a deal by its cloud computing arm to sell SSI access to Tensor processing units, TPUs, its in-house AI chips. Group of ex-OpenAI employees back Musk's lawsuit to halt Open Artificial Intelligence restructure. A dozen former Open Artificial Intelligence employees filed a legal pre-backing Musk's lawsuit aimed at keeping the non-profit status of OpenAI. India federal court filing on Friday the former employees contended that stripping the non-profit of its controlling the role of would fundamentally violate its mission as it was laws oversight of the for-profit AI development entity. A dozen former OpenAI employees filed a legal brief on Friday, backing co-founder Elon Musk's lawsuit aimed at keeping the non-profit status of OpenAI, marking the latest development in the dispute over the future of the artificial intelligence firm. Corporate leaders want to give investors control, drawing a host of concerns and a lawsuit from Musk and others who say business interests must be subordinated to humanitarian goals. Last year, Musk, who is also a CEO of the electric car maker Tesla, sued OpenAI and its CEO Sam Altman, accusing OpenAI of straying from its founding mission to develop AI for the good of humanity, not corporate profit. OpenAI and Altman have denied the allegations. A16Z is leading mega crowd in the former OpenAI CTO's startup Thinking Machines. Silicon Valley VC firm Andreessen Horowitz is in talks to lead a funding round of former OpenAI CTO Mira Murati's startup. The startup named Thinking Machines Lab could be valued at $10 billion in the round, sources said, making it one of the most valuable artificial intelligence startups in the world. Despite only launching in the February month, Silicon Valley venture capital from Andreessen Horowitz is in talks to lead an outsized early-stage funding round of former OpenAI chief technology officer Mira Murati's startup, according to four sources familiar with the matter. The startup named Thinking Machine Lab could be valued at $10 million in the round, sources said, making it one of the most valuable AI startup in the world. Despite only launching in February month, the company, which has no revenue or product yet, is the latest entrant into the crowded space of the companies building generative AI models. Thinking Machines has said it wants to build artificial intelligence systems that are safer, more reliable, and aimed at a broader number of the applications than rivals. Google lays off hundreds of employees in Android Pixel teams report. Alphabet's Google has laid off hundreds of employees in its platform and devices unit. The CATS division, which houses the Android platform, Pixel phones, and the Chrome browser, among other applications, followed Google's January's payout offer to employ in the unit. The report said, Alphabet's Google laid off hundreds of employees in its platforms and devices unit. The information reported on Friday, citing a person with the direct knowledge of the situation. The CATS is the division which houses the Android platform, Pixel phones, and the Chrome browser, among the other applications, followed Google's January buyout offers to employ in the unit. The report said. Since the combining the platforms and devices, the team last year we have focused on the becoming more nimble and operating more effectively, and this included making some job reduction in addition to the voluntary exit program that we offered in the January month. A Google spokesperson told the information. At last, there's a famous personality of India, that's APJ Abdul Kalam, whose full name is actually Oval Pakir General Abdin Abdul Kalam, birth anniversary 15th October 1931 up to 27th of July 2015, was an Indian aerospace scientist and a statesman who served as the President of India from 2002 to 2007. Born and raised in a Muslim family in the Rameshwaram, Tamil Nadu, Kalam studied physics and aerospace engineering. He spent the next 4 decades as a scientist and a science administrator, mainly at the DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization, and ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, and was intimately involved in India's civilian space program and military missile development efforts. He was known as the Missile Man of India for his work on the development of ballistic missile and launch vehicle technology. He also played a pivotal organizational and a technical role and a political role in a Pokhran's second nuclear test in 1998, India's second such test after the first test in 1974. Kalam was elected as the President of India in 2002 with the support of both the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party and the then opposition in the National Congress. He was widely referred to as the People's President. He engaged in teaching, writing, and public service after his presidency. He was a recipient of several awards, including the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian honor. While delivering a lecture at Indian Institute of Management, Shillong, Kalam collapsed and died from an apparent cardiac arrest on 27th July 2015. Aged 83, thousands attended the funeral ceremony held in his hometown of Rameshwaram, where he was buried with the full state honors. A memorial was inaugurated near his hometown in 2017. Mr. Kalam says a very famous quotation. He says that it is very easy to defeat someone, but it is very hard to win someone. He also says that, look at the sky, we are not alone. The whole universe is friendly to us and conspires only to give the best to those who dream and work. Dream and work. Dream and work. Okay, thank you.